Hey everybody. Seems to be a lot of talk in the news, on the media, on the internet about firearms, about school safety, gun control. What can the government do? What should the government do? Should we ban certain types of guns, etc.? So I wanted to take a minute today and make a little video and talk about some of these topics. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in the public eye about guns themselves, bullets, how deadly a gun is, accessories, legal issues, what should the government do, etc. Certainly there's a lot of students who believe that the government should ban certain types of weapons or impose more gun control. So let's talk about some of these things. Hopefully we can answer some questions that people might have about firearms. So you can see here today, we have a couple of rifles here with us. We've got an example of an AR-15, and we've got your traditional hunting rifle. This is my deer rifle. So we're going to talk about these two guns, differences between the two of them. We're going to talk about ammunition, calibers, try to answer some of your questions. So a lot of times we hear numbers floated around like 357 Magnum, 38 Special, 45, 9mm, 223 Remington, 5.56, 30-06, 10mm. We hear all these numbers, and I don't think people understand what they mean. I don't think people understand what these different calibers and what these numbers really mean. So I thought I would answer that question right up front. So in America here, we mostly measure bullet calibers on the standard scale, which would be inches. So right here I've got a 45 caliber pistol round, 45 ACP, and it's called a 45 because the bullet itself is 0.45 inches in diameter. So that would be the diameter of this projectile here is 0.45 inches. This is a 9mm, so this one would have a diameter of 9 millimeters. This is a 22. This would have a diameter of actually 0.224 inches. Here is the AR-15 round. This is the Remington 223, or the military has a version of it called the 5.56. It's pretty much the same bullet. There's slight differences, but they're very, very nearly identical. One is 5.56 millimeters or 0.223 inches. This is a 30-06. This is what I use in my deer rifle. This is a 30 caliber round, 0.3 inches or 30 caliber, 3/10 of an inch in diameter of the bullet. This bullet, this is the part of the projectile that will fire out of the gun. This travels at an average speed of around 3,000 to 3,500 feet per second. Your AR-15 round will travel at about 2,500 to 3,000 feet per second. Your 45 ACP, a pistol round, conversely, will travel at about 800 to 900 feet per second, much slower. Your 9mm is around 11 or 1,200 feet per second. And your 22 long rifle, this bullet will fly at about 1,000 feet per second. Bullets are measured in a term called grains. So this 22 is a 40 grain bullet. That's the weight of this bullet. Your AR round, your standard AR round, weighs 55 grains. So keep those numbers in mind. 55 grains for your AR bullet. Your 9mm round that I'm holding right here is a 124 grain bullet. Almost 2.5 times the bullet that the AR round is. Your 45 ACP, that's a 230 grain bullet. That's more than 4 times the size of your AR bullet. This is a 150 grain bullet, the 30-06. This bullet is 55 grains. 150, 55. Almost 3 times the bullet that this is. So what most people don't realize is that the 30-06 round was the standard military round for 50 or 60 years. So from the latter part of the 1800s up through World War I, World War II, into Korea. The 30-06 round was used in military rifles for the better part of 50 or 60 years. In the 1960s, the military wanted to downsize, so they began to go to the AR platform, and they developed this, the 5.56 or the 223 Remington round. One of the reasons for that is just simply size and weight. In fact, this isn't even considered to be a rifle round at all. This is what the military calls an intermediate cartridge. This is a rifle round. This is not. So if you hear people in the media talking about the AR rifles and those deadly AR bullets, no. Your standard hunting round, your standard deer rifle round is a 3 times bigger bullet and much larger and much more deadlier than this. And this is an actual rifle round. This is not. The military refers to this as an intermediate cartridge. This is even significantly smaller than a lot of your pistol caliber rounds. Again, 230 grain bullet versus a 55 grain bullet. So people believe there's a misconception in the news and the internet and media that these AR bullets are just super big and super deadly and 10 times deadlier than any other rifle round out there. And that is just not true. That is a lie. And the media has bought into telling you a lie. Now, that's not to say that this bullet isn't deadly. This bullet can kill you. It absolutely can kill you. In fact, the military just figured out somewhere in the 1950s and 1960s just how fragile and how frail the human body is. And that it really doesn't take a massive amount of bullet or speed to critically injure somebody or to kill somebody. So they downsized to this. But let's keep in mind that this bullet isn't much bigger than this bullet. 55 grains, 40 grains. This one travels at around 1,000 feet per second. This one travels at around 2,500 to 3,000 feet per second. Now, at close range, the speed is significantly different. But at close range, this round is more likely less than 50 yards. This round is more likely to penetrate cleanly through the body without any distortion or fragmenting and just leave an open wound completely through the body. The media doesn't tell you that. The media tells you that this bullet tumbles and tosses and fragments and rips human flesh. And in close quarters, less than 50 yards, 30 yards, 20 yards, that's just not true. It actually will pass through the human body unless it hits significant amount of bone tissue, like a pelvic bone or rib cage or something like that, where it's a large, thick, heavy bone that will stop this bullet or slow it down. Now again, any bullet can be deadly. Any bullet can kill you. But let's just dispel the myth right now that these bullets are bigger, massive, deadlier, worse than any other type of caliber, because they're not. That is a lie that the media is telling you. So, I hope that answers some questions about calibers and the bullet for you. So let's talk about the guns themselves. A lot of people believe that this is a military rifle. This is not a military rifle, folks. This is a civilian version of the AR-15. A lot of people believe that the AR stands for assault rifle. It doesn't. This gun was engineered and developed by a gentleman named Eugene Stoner, who worked for the Armalite Rifle Company. And the Armalite Rifle Company named all of their rifles AR. So AR-10, AR-5, AR-7, AR-15. Some common, that was how they named their rifles. But wait a minute, this rifle is black and it's scary looking and it's got things on it and it's got rails. So let's talk about all of those things, okay? So first of all, let's talk about the stock. People think that this has something to do with how deadly and lethal the AR-15 is. This has nothing to do with the lethality or the terminal capability of the AR-15 rifle. The collapsible or adjustable stock was designed by the military because the military brings in thousands of recruits every year. People of different heights and weights and sizes and different length of arms and different sized human beings. So the adjustable stock was a feature that the gun designers came up with so that a smaller, shorter person, maybe someone with a shorter arm, could adjust this to fit their body. That's all that is. That's all that is. You can actually buy pads for a standard hunting rifle that you can put on the end of the stock of the hunting rifle to extend the length of the stock of the hunting rifle. So that's not a new concept. It's not something that makes the gun deadlier, more dangerous, or a military-style rifle. Not at all. So the pistol grip. A lot of people believe that this is a military-only feature that has something to do with making the gun more and more deadly than it already is. And that, folks, is another lie. Because actually, most rifles have a pistol grip. This rifle has a pistol grip. It's right here. It's just a place to put your hand to hold the rifle. That's it. Doesn't make it any more dangerous or deadly or a dangerous rifle than any other kind of rifle. It's just a place to hold your hand, put your finger on the trigger. That's all it is. And as you can see, this rifle has a scope. Well, so does this rifle. People have used scopes on rifles for over 100 years now. Doesn't make the gun any more deadlier. It's just a scope. That's all it is. Well, what about this thing up here, this forward grip? Well, actually, this forward grip comes off. I can get it loose. This forward grip comes off, and all this particular one does is this particular one holds my stand so that I can stand the gun up somewhere and leave it sitting there and not have to, prop it up against something. That's all this does. There's no difference between holding this on the front of the gun or just placing my hand on the front of the gun. There's no difference whatsoever. Using a grip like that, using a grip like this on the front of the gun does not make the gun deadlier or more dangerous or more military than not having it. Your standard rifle, you have a forward grip right here. This has a forward grip. A lot of people talk about the barrel shroud. Barrel shroud is something that we should use to ban guns with. Well, this has a barrel shroud, and the barrel shroud is just a safety device. That's all it is, because when you fire the gun, the barrel gets hot. And if you put your hands on a hot barrel, you're going to burn your hands and fingers. So that's what a barrel shroud is for, is to keep the user from burning his fingers and burning his hands. It doesn't make the gun deadlier or more dangerous or more military. A lot of people look at the features on this gun and they think, oh, it's got this grip and this, and it's got this, and all those are military features. That's a military gun. No. They're safety features, if anything else. This is for convenience, so if you have a younger person or someone with a smaller body frame, they can adjust this up and down to fit their body. They can, this, again, we talked about the pistol grip. But the main difference between this and a military rifle, this is a semi-automatic rifle. And we hear that term in the news a lot lately, and there seems to be a lot of call to ban semi-automatic rifles. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So what is a semi-automatic rifle? Well, the government regulates all types of rifle designs. There are laws that gun manufacturers must follow. So a semi-automatic rifle means that when you pull the trigger, one bullet comes out. You pull the trigger again, one bullet comes out. And on and on. You pull the trigger, one bullet. Military rifles have a select fire capability. Military rifles will fire in semi-automatic. Most of them will. But they'll have a switch, and it'll be something like this. And that switch will have a select fire mode. You can turn the switch, and when you pull the trigger, 3 rounds will come out in burst mode. You turn the switch again, and the rifle will fire as long as you're holding the trigger. Bullets will just keep coming out until it runs out until the magazine runs empty, or you take your finger off the trigger. Civilian rifles do not have select fire. Civilian rifles are semi-automatic only. Now, can a civilian get a select fire rifle? Yes, a civilian can legally purchase a select fire rifle. However, those are heavily regulated. The process to do so takes about 6 months to a year. It is very expensive, and the gun itself will be registered with the ATF, and you will have to carry a license with the gun. It's called a tax stamp with the gun anytime the gun is taken out and used. It's very expensive, takes almost a year to do. The majority of gun owners, 99% of gun owners, don't even want to mess with that. It's too costly, it takes too much time. People don't have the time to do that kind of hassle. So, this is really no different in terms of its mechanical operation to a standard rifle or even a handgun. Most handguns are semi-automatic. Even a revolver, you could even say that a revolver is semi-automatic because you pull the trigger, you get one bullet. You pull the trigger, you get one bullet. So that's the differences between this rifle and a military rifle. So don't let the media try to tell you that the AR-15 is a military rifle. It's not. It's a civilian rifle. Now, the military and police will use AR-15s in semi-automatic. The military and police do use these rifles as semi-automatic rifles at times, but this rifle is not designed solely as a military rifle. So what about this thing up here? This evil looking thing at the tip of the barrel. This is called the flash hider. And that's actually a very surreptitious name for it because it doesn't hide the flash of the gun at all. It actually, when the gun is fired, it merely directs some of the powder that's coming out of the gun upwards and away from the gun. That's all it does. So some of these features that someone on the news or the internet's going to try to convince you makes this rifle a military rifle, they're misinformed and they're lying to you, so you don't believe them. What about these rails? What about these rails here where you can mount things on the gun? That makes it a military grade rifle. No, that does not make it a military grade rifle. That makes it a sporting rifle. The AR-15 is the most popular platform. It's actually the most popular rifle sold in America today because people use these for competition shooting. Some even can configure them and use them for hunting. They're used for a variety of purposes. And having mount points where you can put a flashlight or a grip or some other type of accessory on the rifle just means it's more versatile. You can use the rifle for different purposes. AR-15s can also be reconfigured. You can change the caliber with some parts changes. So you can use them with different ammunition. You can use them with pistol caliber rounds. They make kits where you can convert an AR-15 to a pistol caliber. So it just makes it more versatile so you can use the rifle for different purposes. That does not make this rifle a military grade rifle. Now, I've built a number of these AR-15s, and I will also tell you that they're very modular. When people talk about banning the AR-15, I kind of have to laugh at them because it's really a ridiculous notion. What most people don't realize is that there are literally millions of parts suppliers for the AR-15 platform. You can go online and search for any part of this rifle and get hits on thousands of suppliers. There are literally thousands of people that make parts for this rifle. And let's talk about modern technology. Modern technology, computers, printers, lathing, CNC machines. Modern technology allows a person with a home computer and some tools and equipment to actually produce parts for this themselves. If you have a 3D laser, you have a 3D printer, there are certain parts that you can produce for this gun. If you have a CNC machine or access to a CNC machine, you can mill parts for this gun. If you have access to a lathe or some basic metalworking tools, you can actually build your own parts for this gun. And that's when I hear people talking about banning the AR-15, it kind of makes me laugh because the parts and the design of this gun are so well known and so predominant in the marketplace that there's no way you could ban this gun. Sure, you could have the military, the police come along and take these up and collect them from civilians, but as soon as you do, you're going to have literally hundreds of people milling parts for these in their garages, manufacturing parts for these in their garages. And it's just like Prohibition, the days of Prohibition in the early 1900s when they outlawed alcoholic beverages. Man, the moonshiners and the homebrew alcohol beverage makers flourished. That's where we got a lot of the gang activity, and that's actually where the firearms all came from, because the alcohol and the gangs were using Tommy guns, machine guns to fight the police when the police were coming to arrest them. So we had the Firearms Act, National Firearms Act of 1934, which is still the law of the land, which regulates certain types of guns and accessories you can have for them. So that was where we got these types of rifles to begin with. That's due to the National Firearms Act of 1934. We want to talk about the assault weapons ban of 1994. The FBI did a study after that law sunsetted, and lawmakers wisely wanted to try it. They didn't want to permanently ban the AR platform, so they made the law the assault weapons ban for 10 years. And they did that for a reason. They wanted Congress and the FBI, the intelligence agencies, to be able to study whether or not the legislation had any effect at all. And the study that was done after that firearms ban sunsetted, expired, the FBI discovered that there was no difference at all. No difference at all in crime rates or anything else. So, and the assault weapons. Oh, let's talk about assault weapons. Again, we talked about the differences between this and the actual military rifle being primarily the select fire capability. select fire capability is what gives you the assault rifle, and if you will. And there really is no such thing as assault rifle. That's actually a term that the media made up to scare civilians, to make them think that that certain types of rifles were actually military rifles. That term assault rifle was made up by the media. It's not a military term, or even a term that has existed in the gun culture. So again, a lot of misinformation out there in the media about these types of weapons. Anyway, I hope I've answered some of your questions, and I'm sorry I've rambled so much. I appreciate you sticking with me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. I'll try to answer them if I have time, and look forward to making some more videos. Thank you.